The United Nations has called for more preventative measures in the countries affected by Ebola. CCTV's Li-Ling Tan joins us live from UN headquarters in New York with details. Li-Ling.
Yes, Mike, with Ebola fears on the rise, the United Nations newly appointed Ebola envoy David Nabarro met with the press this session, and he said he will be heading to West Africa this week to help coordinate the UN's response to the outbreak. Now, this is the first we've heard from him since his appointment a week ago. We understand he's met with ambassadors and representatives from the 4 countries that have been affected. The fundamental role that the UN will play is to support people and communities affected by the disease, as well as strengthen governments and countries dealing with the outbreak, including empowering them to address not just this outbreak, but future outbreaks as well. The UN efforts under Nabarro will focus on dealing with Ebola, but also, he stressed, also on supporting a healthcare system, a health system that has been severely burdened by Ebola. And that this health system, he says, is required to support a community in need of medical help beyond and apart from Ebola. And providing services such as healthcare services, he said, could help prevent the situation from spiraling out of control and affecting stability and security in these countries. And if you recall, Mike, Dr. Nabarro was in the past the Secretary General's avian flu guru, and he said that in his capacity dealing with these kind of crises in the past, he has learned that preparedness is key. And in situations like this, where there could be major economic and social consequences, it's important to properly communicate and provide reliable information. And he will be heading to Washington, D.C. in the next 24 hours to meet with officials, including from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Prevention, and he will then head to West Africa on Thursday. Mike?
Li-Ling, we've also heard another development there at the UN. It's the UN itself launching one of the largest aid operations in northern Iraq to help some 500,000 people displaced by the violence we've been reporting on. This is going to involve air, road, and sea operations within the next 24 hours. What's prompting this massive effort, and what will it accomplish?
Yes, indeed, it's a very massive effort indeed, Mike, and really it's the massive number, the immense number of people who have been displaced that is prompting this aid campaign. Now, you mentioned 500,000 displaced. Many of them are still taking shelter in schools, mosques, churches, unfinished buildings, as well as tents pitched by the UN Refugee Agency. And the agency's aim with this aid, this humanitarian effort, is to basically meet the needs of those who are in dire need. Many of them are still without shelter.
Conditions remain desperate for those without access to suitable shelter, for people struggling to find food and water to feed their families, and for those without access to primary medical care. Many are still coming to grips with the tragedy they've been through in recent weeks, fleeing homes with nothing, and many are trying to cope with the loss of loved ones. Emergency support is an urgent need that we are trying to meet.
And the air, land and sea operation will commence August 20th. That's about 24 hours from now, and it will begin with a 4-day airlift from Jordan to Erbil, road convoys from Turkey to Jordan, as well as sea and land shipments from Dubai via Iran over 10 days. And supplies will include some 3,300 tents, as well as tens of thousands of kitchen sets, jerry cans and plastic sheets. Now, this effort also involves countries from around the world, including Japan, Saudi Arabia, the US, the UK, Norway, and Sweden, as well as the UN corporate partner and Swedish furniture store IKEA. So this will indeed be a massive humanitarian campaign to deal with one of the world's worst crises.
Li-Ling Tan live for us at the United Nations there in New York. Thanks so much.